back. If we're missing anyone, I hope they come in by. We're going to go ahead and go forward with the second part of the trial, the defense's case in chief, and then we'll take a break for closing arguments. Defense, please call your first witness.
Call Jensen Decker to the stand.
Dr. Decker, I'll remind you, you've been previously sworn in.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Jensen Decker, and I'm a psychologist.
What is your experience in this area of work?
I have been in practice for over 15 years. I have my master's and PhD that I received at Thunderbird University, and I've also been in over 50 trials.
Why were you called into this situation?
I'm an expert witness and have a lot of experience with trials and criminals.
What are the usual characteristics of arsonists?
Arsonists normally have little to no friends. They don't come back to the fires that they start. They are very reclusive. They're unable to cope with problems. They lash out at their superiors and are secretly proud of their fires. Not to mention how they call their fire into the police, like when Lane went to the fire station.
What are the usual characteristics of arsonists?
I just answered that question.
How does Ms. Gray fit into the usual characteristics of arsonists?
Gray has many friends. She is very ashamed of her previous arson, came to the fire and can cope easily with problems.
And how are her relationships?
Gray strongly respects her bosses, and she has other friends in the area.
What evidence points to Gray's innocence?
Well, Gray was a curious fire starter. She really wanted to know what fires were and how it made her feel. And she also displays no signs of being an arsonist.
And who paid you to be here today?
Ashton Bellows paid my fee.
And why would he do that?
Ashton was looking out for her friend, and Whitney doesn't have much money or savings, and she just lost her only job, so Ashton just wanted to help her out.
And in your professional opinion, would Miss Gray have had any reason to start this fire?
No, Miss Gray would not have any reason to set the fire. She lost her only job and her friend Lane. There would be no reason for her to set the fire. She also worked very hard to build up her reputation from her previous arson.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Prosecution, do you have a cross-examination of the witness?
Yes.
Is it true that you are being paid to be here?
Yes.
Hypothetically, if you were to say bad things about the defendant, would you still be paid?
Well, I think so.
Okay. You said in your affidavit that Whitney likes to watch fires, correct?
She likes to watch the firefighters, not the fires.
How would you know?
She told me.
So you're saying that just because Whitney told you that you know that she likes to watch the fires because of the firefighters.
Exactly.
So are you saying people don't lie?
Well, people do lie, but Whitney would have no reason to lie to me.
Besides the fact that, you know, she's suspected for arson?
Besides that fact, of course.
Okay. You also said in your affidavit that many arsonists manifest tendencies in early youth, correct?
Yes,
Are you aware of the incident when Whitney was 14?
I am.
You said before that Ashton Bellows is paying you to testify today, correct?
Correct.
So Whitney was in need of money?
She is. She just lost her only job.
So she could have used some of the insurance money, correct?
She could have, but why would she use the insurance money? Her name is not on the policy.
Hypothetically, Ashton could have paid her money to set the fire, correct?
He could have, but he also could have paid Lane. He also could have paid a number of different people.
That is true. Could you tell us where you got your PhD?
I got it at Thunderbird University
And how long ago did you receive your license?
around 15 years ago.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Decker. You may be excused. Defense, call your next witness.
We'd like to call Ashton Bellows to the stand.
Ms. Bellows, I'll remind you, you are previously sworn in.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
My name is Ashton Bellows.
And where do you work?
I used to co-own the pub Bellows and O'Brien.
What is your educational background?
I went to UGA and I got my degree in business.
How long have you been the co-owner?
I've been the co-owner since the pub was founded 7 years ago.
Now, how are you related to this case?
Well, I co-owned the pub and I've lost everything I worked on in the past 7 years.
The night of July 4th, where were you?
I was at the restaurant helping Whitney and Lane close.
And who were you with?
I was with Whitney and Lane, and they were helping me close.
When did you leave?
I left at about 12:05.
Now, who was the last person you remember being in the pub?
I remember Lane was the last person in the pub because he was checking out the basement to make sure everything was closed.
Has Lane ever smoked in the bar?
He hasn't smoked in the bar since Illinois enacted the no smoking in public facilities bill, but he still sometimes sneaks a cigarette in the basement.
As far as your relationship, how would you describe it with Whitney and Lane?
I've known Whitney for almost all of my life, and I've known Lane since high school, and I'm definitely better friends with Whitney than I am with Lane.
Did you know about Whitney's prior arson?
I do remember that she did tell me when I hired her to be a bartender, and Lane knew about Whitney's prior arson as well.
So Whitney never lied about the fact, or hid the fact about her arson to you all?
No, she never hid it.
Now, I know that you were considering leaving the pub. How did Lane take it when you told him you wanted out?
He didn't like the fact that I wanted to sell my share of the pub, and he really didn't like the idea of me selling it to someone other than him if I had to sell it.
But at the time, did he have the funds?
He did not have the funds, and he did ask me for a year so he could gather the funds to buy me out.
Was Lane close to getting the funds at the time of the fire?
He wasn't close at this point, and in fact, I didn't see him looking for the funds at all.
And now, how did you feel about waiting so long?
I'm not an unreasonable person, and I realized that getting the funds would take a while. Yes, I was getting impatient, but I would never have said so.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
You have a cross-examination of the witness?
Yes.
So, Miss Bellows, you said that you've been working at the pub for about 7 years now, correct?
Yes.
And you wanted to sell your half of the business, correct?
Yes.
And isn't it true that you wanted to start over somewhere else?
Well, I didn't really want to completely start over. I did want to move somewhere else where I could just relax.
Now, Miss Bellows, in order to start or move somewhere else, wouldn't you have needed money?
Well, I do have a lot of savings that are for retirement, so if I retired, then I would have those savings, so I wouldn't really need the money.
But you want the money now. You said you wanted out of the business.
Well, I did want out of the business, but Lane did ask me for a year, and I did agree to that, and I'm not breaking that.
You said in your statement that Mr. O'Brien wasn't moving towards getting the money to sell your half of the business. So would you say you were getting tired or frustrated on waiting on him?
Well, I was getting a little bit impatient, but I definitely would have waited till the end of the year before I said anything.
Okay. So you and Miss Whitney are close friends, correct?
We're not the closest of friends, but we are definitely friends.
And you helped her get this job even though you knew previously she had an arson charge.
Yes.
Why is this?
Well, I do know that she is my friend, and even if she did have the arson charge, she worked really hard to clear her name for arson doing community service, in which I could trust her.
How long have you known Miss Whitney?
I've known Whitney for almost all of my life.
So you gave her this job as a favor from a friend?
No, I gave her the job because I knew she was hardworking because of her past arson case in which she really tried hard to clean up her reputation.
Weren't you and Mrs. Gray working the night of July 4th?
Yes, Lane was working too.
And weren't you working as a bartender that night?
Yes,
Was
I
Miss
was.
Whitney correct?
I was.
Now, Miss Bellows, didn't you say in your statement that you were getting sick and tired of working at the bar?
I was getting a little bit tired because I used to want to own the bar, but 7 years have passed and it's kind of just faded now.
So after the bar, you and Miss Gray helped Mr. O'Brien locked up, correct?
Yes, Whitney left before I did, and I left before Lane did.
And you told Mrs. Whitney to leave early that night, and you left shortly afterwards, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't see Mrs. Gray again until after the fire, correct?
I saw her during the fire in which she told me that she really needed a job, and I told her that I would help her find a job if she needed help.
After the fire, you said that you saw Miss Gray staring at the fire, and you said that Mrs. Gray enjoys watching firefighters at work, didn't you?
Yes, I do know that she likes watching firefighters.
So just a month ago, you suggested to Mr. Lane that you should increase the insurance plans because Mr. Lane just added some heirlooms to the decor, correct?
Yes, I did recommend it because if there was something bad that happened, like the heirlooms are stolen or something happened to them, I would at least expect that he would want the money for them if he couldn't have the heirlooms themselves.
And let's just say something did happen to the heirlooms. You would get exactly $250,000, correct?
I would.
And just a month ago, before you signed off, you increased the insurance. You signed off to increase the insurance plan, correct?
I did. I helped sign it with Lane.
Did Mrs. Gray ask you for a loan or increase in pay?
She did ask me for an advance in her pay.
And didn't you say the money was tight right now?
Yes, I did.
And you also said that you would do anything for Miss Gray. Was it because she was a friend of yours?
Well, she is a friend, but it's also because if she really needs a job, it's very hard for her to get a job because of her past arson case, so I'd be able to help her.
Now, Miss Bellows, you have an office in the basement, correct?
Yes, I do, but I haven't gone down to it in weeks because the smell of the lacquer thinner and the mineral spirits was so bad.
You also said that sometimes Lane might sneak and smoke in the basement, correct?
Yes.
How would you know that if you said you hadn't been in the basement in months?
Well, back when he started stripping the antiques, I would go down there because the smell wasn't nearly as bad. But after a couple of days, it got really bad, so I stopped going down there.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. May be excused. Judge, would you like to call your last witness?
We would now like to call Miss Whitney Gray to the stand.
Ms. Gray, I'll remind you, you can previously sworn.
Miss Gray, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I am Whitney Gray, and I am 24 years old. I was born in Thunderbird, and I've lived here all of my life. I am a former employee of the Pup, Bellows, and O'Brien.
What kind of education do you have?
I dropped out of high school, but I got my GED, and I'm currently going into my second year of local community college. I'm majoring in criminal justice. I wanted to be a firefighter, but I cannot pass the physical.
And why exactly couldn't you pass your physical?
I have severe asthma, and the smoke damages my lungs.
I see. Now, Miss Gray, if you'd be willing, could you please explain what happened to you as a child when you were 14 years old?
The kids I was friends with started some fires by an old hangar of ours. I was one of the kids that got caught. I just want it to be known that I never actually started the fire. I was just with the group.
Despite not committing the actual crime, you do understand your actions were still reckless, correct?
Of course, I understand what I did was wrong, and I worked hard to get my respect and reputation back by doing community service. I took it very seriously and used it as a reminder not to do wrong.
Miss Gray, can you explain to the jury why you're here today?
I was working at the pub Bellows in O'Brien. Currently, now I'm here being accused of burning down the pub.
Now, can you please explain the courtroom the night of July 4th?
I worked the whole day of the 4th, and it was a busy day. Things started to calm down by 9 p.m. Around 12 a.m., when the pub closed, Lane and Ashton told me to head home and they would handle cleanup. I then went home and spent the rest of the night alone.
So you worked at the pub for quite a while, correct?
Yes, for about 6 years.
And do you have an alarm system in the Bellows and O'Brien's pub?
Yes.
Who has access to these alarm codes?
Lane O'Brien, Ashton Bellows, and myself.
In the fire investigation report, it states the alarm codes were never turned off, correct?
Yes, as far as I'm aware.
Why do you think the alarm codes were never turned off?
Maybe the fire was set before anyone left the pub.
And according to Ashton Bellows, Lane O'Brien was the last person to leave the pub, correct?
Yes.
Back to the fire. Who made you aware of the fire at the pub?
Ashton called me when she arrived on the scene.
And what was your initial reaction to seeing the pub on fire?
I was devastated. I realized the fire meant the end of my job, and when Lane blamed me for the fire, because earlier I was talking with Ashton about my past arson, I was hurt. All because I was trying to be honest about what happened so long ago. People say I was seen smiling at the fire. This is because Ashton said she'd help me find a job, and knowing I had a friend like that made me smile, even in the somber scene.
Just to clarify, the only reason you were smiling was because Ashton said she would help you, correct?
Yes, she said she would help me find a job. I was very grateful.
Now, Miss Gray, what has this fire at the pub cost you?
Pretty much everything. I'm not on the insurance policy, so I gained no money, giving me no reason to burn down the pub. Everyone now thinks I'm a criminal, and no one will hire me. Ruining their respect, I worked hard to get back. And now Lane is furious with me. I like and respect both him and Ashton, and I don't want our friendship to be destroyed. I gained nothing from this fire, and I have no reason to set it. I would do a lot for Ashton, but never anything illegal.
One last question, Miss Gray. What do you think started the fire?
There are a few things that seemed odd. One of those things is the lack of dinner and mineral spirits being in the basement, the balcony, which is in the basement.
And whom do these accelerants belong to?
Elaine O'Brien.
Your Honor, no further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Miss Gray.
Good afternoon.
Is there anyone who can confirm your whereabouts on July 4th through July 5th?
Do you mean the night of the fire?
Yes.
No, I went home and I was alone.
Is it true that you have a past in arson?
Yes, but I do not try to cover it up or pretend it didn't happen. I understand what I did was wrong, and I worked hard to get my reputation back.
For your, let's say, consequences for your arson charge, was the community service court ordered?
Yes.
Is it true that you would do anything to somehow help Miss Bellows?
Yes, but as I said, I would never do anything illegal.
Were you seen smiling at the scene of the crime with Ashton Bellows?
Yes, Ashton had just said she would help me get a new job, and I was so happy for that. Having a friend like that means a lot to me.
In your fire investigator classes, do they teach you what starts fires and how to keep them going?
Yes.
Is it true you needed money and asked Ashton for a loan, and that she said she would help if she could?
Ashton said money was a bit tight at the moment, so I did not get the money.
Does Ashton know about your previous arson?
Yes, I made it clear in the interview that it did happen, and I talked about it recently. I think Ashton and Lane had both forgotten about what I said.
Is it true that Miss Bellows and your fingerprints were found on a gas can in your car, and that the color of the smoke was black and was determined to be a gas fire?
Our fingerprints were on the gas can, but the gas is used for mowing the mower that we used to mow the lawn of the pub.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Gray, you may be excused. And that finishes the defense case in chief. We'll take 5 minutes before closing arguments. We'll come back at 2 o'clock. With closing arguments. After that, Corey, myself, Reagan, and Jake will go outside. We will pass out ballots to the campers who are not participating in this trial to get their feedback on whether they think Whitney Gray is guilty or not after closing arguments. We'll come back with the verdict, outstanding witness and attorney awards, and some constructive criticism for everyone involved, so we can keep getting better. So with that, we'll go into closing argument. Prosecution, would you like to begin?
May it please the court, opposing counsel, members of the jury. Friendship, trust, and reputation were all burned in the fire at Bellows and O'Brien pub. Lane O'Brien, co-owner of the pub, was betrayed by not only his co-worker, but his best friend, when Ashton Bellows burned down the pub along with her partner in crime, Whitney Gray. Today we presented you with 3 witnesses: Lane O'Brien, the helpless victim; Falcon Burke, the brave firefighter; and Eaton Barr, the fire marshal. From these 3 witnesses, we've given you motive, means, and opportunity. Not only did the defendant know the alarm codes, but he had plenty of time to get in, out, and come back to watch the aftermath. Whitney Gray is being charged with arson after Bellows and O'Brien, a local pub, was burned down the evening of July 4th. She is being accused of purposefully causing serious damage to the pub. Members of the jury, when you are finding a verdict, remember the friendships, trust, and relationships damaged in the fire at Bellows and O'Brien. Now that we have presented our evidence, I am standing before you to ask for a verdict of guilty.
Thank you. Beth, closing argument.
May it please the court, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. As stated in the opening statement, the pub Bellows and O'Brien burned down in the early morning of July 5th, 2010. In the destruction, thousands of dollars worth of alcohol, in addition to heirlooms that owned by Lane O'Brien, were burned. Today you heard from 3 witnesses from the defense. Jensen Decker, who proved that Whitney did not show a sign of an arsonist. Ashton Bellows, who showed how he was trying to be a good friend and supportive to Whitney. and that he would wait for Lane O'Brien, thus giving him an argument that he had nothing to gain. And lastly, you heard from the defendant herself, Whitney Gray, who proved her past arson case 10 years ago changed her, and that all she wanted to do was rebuild her life and credibility, and she truly had nothing to gain but lose everything. Our evidence showed that Lane O'Brien was in fact the last person in the pub, as far as anyone knows, that Lane O'Brien was the only person to touch the lacquer thinner and antiques. We also showed that Lane O'Brien had a motive to burn down the pub based on the fact that he did not have the money for Ashton to have the pump, but only $1,000 in his savings. In addition, we proved that Lane lied about smoking to the fire marshal, something so small that he could have admitted, and that he blamed Ashton in starting the fires so he could just get the money and so he could, quote, have it all for himself. Accusations, assumptions, and arson. Lane made false accusations based on an assumption that Whitney committed the crime due to the relationship she has with Ashton Bellows and her previous juvenile arson case that happened not 1, but 10 years ago, that she showed remorse for, did community service. And now that we have presented our evidence, I ask you, the jury, to remember that the past should stay in the past. And when we're trying to make it new, that we should. And I'm asking you for a not guilty verdict.
Thank you very much. We can give a big round of applause. You guys did great. I speak for myself, and I'm sure Corey as well, that we are very proud of you. You guys did awesome. This is not an easy task or something to pick up really quickly, and you guys did great. You picked it up with a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and really this was very entertaining, very enjoyable to watch, and we're very proud of you for all that you guys did this week. So we are going to now give ballots to Olivia and Sydney so they can let us know what they thought, and then we will step out and deliberate.
Before we're going to do it a little bit different this time, but the earlier trial we gave the verdict first, and then gave our outstanding attorneys and witness awards. But just to keep you on the edge of your seats, we're going to give out the awards first. Parents, I'm sure you're going to love us for this, because we're going to give not only your child a nice piece of paper with a certificate on the back of it, but sugar as well. We have Skittles for them, so don't hate us when they eat them.
Same as earlier, do not eat all the Skittles now. Share them if you'd like. Save
It
them.
literally says share size on the packet. That's a recommendation.
You must share them.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead. I have the Most Valuable Witness Award for this trial. This person, just a little bit of background before I say who it is. This person did double. They had a role in the earlier trial as well, and one in the afternoon. So obviously they went above and beyond the effort there and had a lot of work to do, and they've definitely put in the preparation that I've seen to get where they are right now. So without further ado, the most valuable witness for outstanding work as a witness in the case of People v. Gray is Mr. Cole Britt. Hold on.
Skittles!
Shares.
It's a recommendation. Shared recommendation. Is a command from the Skittles company. For the Most Valuable Attorney Awards, you guys all did great. There's a lot of nuances to being an attorney. You guys picked up on a lot of them and really impressed us. For this trial as well, there were several people who doubled because we only had, I guess we ended up with basically 16 campers at the end, and there's 12 spots in each trial. So obviously there were a lot of people who stepped up and doubled, got some wonderful assistance. But this was one of the people that was very dedicated to working throughout the week, did awesome in both trials, and we were very, very impressed. So the Most Valuable Attorney Award goes to Leanne Holmes. You guys all did wonderful. I would encourage you to continue doing mock trial. If you don't have a team at your middle school, start one. If you don't have a team at your high school, start one.
Yep.
All it takes is finding a teacher who teaches social studies, history, any subject,
Literally anything.
literally any subject, somebody who's interested in law, has seen Law and Order once.
Yeah.
Try to find a teacher who knows a lot about it. You can always get help from local attorneys. You'll be surprised how many local attorneys did mock trial and would be more than happy to come back and help. So we'd encourage you to try to go out and do that. If you have a team at your school, we would obviously encourage you to join it.
When we give the verdict, the trial is basically over at that point. All the things that we have to say are pretty much done. If for the parents, if y'all are checking your kids out before, right now, if you're leaving, we have 2 lovely summer academy assistants over there that will
With the staff grade t-shirts.
Yes, staff grade t-shirts. They will help you get your child checked out. They have parking passes, so if you parked here, you can grab a parking pass and it's free. So that's a nice little helpful thing there too.
Thank you very much, parents, obviously,
Yeah,
for coming
so
by
much
and
for
supporting.
coming.
Round of applause for the parents. We appreciate that you trusted us to send your campers here. We hope that you enjoyed watching them as much as we enjoyed teaching them. So,
Judge Wittenstein, I'll let you do the honors.
So, for the afternoon trial, for the case of People versus Gray, Whitney Gray has been found not guilty. Take that with a grain of salt. In real mock trial, we don't actually get a verdict because the cases are designed to be very, very even. You guys did very well, though, and we are extremely proud of all of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.